Today we'll be talking with Alberto Bacó in part 2 of our 3-part series. Don't go away.
Live from San Juan, Puerto Rico, this is the Puerto Rico Business Broadcast. Now, here's your host, Daven Michaels.
Welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series with Alberto Bacó. Alberto, thanks so much for spending some more time with us. This is great. We were talking about the history of Puerto Rico, and we were talking about specifically your team as you ushered in Act 20 and 22. You were utilizing what had been used in the past to bring manufacturing to Puerto Rico. And let's back up for a minute and talk about that, because that was a huge boom. That created, about 140,000 jobs. So let's talk about that incentive. Let's talk about the impact that it had on the island, and why did it go away?
That's at the beginning with the end.
Yeah.
That's one of our devastating inflection points of our. If we see our history from the economic development perspective, I like to narrate it in 3 very positive inflection points and 3 very negative ones.
Okay.
That's one of the incredible. And it's incredible because the U.S. Congress and the President Clinton at that time took away this unique benefit that they could take away, didn't give anything back. And at the end, all that jobs and all that economic activity didn't went back to the mainland USA. It went to Ireland.
Yeah.
So I have my conspiracy theory that this was designed to favor Ireland. So that ended up an amazing story from being the poorest place in the Caribbean and in South America to becoming the place that other places in the world, and when I say other places, I will say with name, Singapore, Hong Kong, Ireland, came to study.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, in 10 years, that was devastated. Why? This is the way politics work. Hopefully, this time that we have a new strategy and we have put our act together, people are more conscious of their actions and their consequences. Because at the end of the day, the U.S. have to put a lot more money into giveaways, which is not the best. The best is to have productivity and dignity.
Yeah.
Not.
So tell me about the 3 positive inflection points and the 3 negative inflection points.
Well, for me, and that's my definition, I have done this way of telling the Puerto Rico history. The 3 big inflection points were Ted Moscoso and Luis Muñoz Marin in the 1950s with Operation Bootstrap, when basically this little island was inaugurating a manufacturing operation every week. We had garment, we have shoe factories of 2,000, 3,000 people. It was so well devised that it permeated throughout all the islands, even in the mountains and in Vieques. So that's why you still go to the farthest away places in this island, and you may find a manufacturing plant, because these guys thought of everything. And what they did is that if you were willing to go to these places that nobody will go, they gave you 25 years of tax benefits. So they developed a very good plan that was what the users wanted. They didn't sit down, like I see that sometimes people do, to do whatever they think will work. Yeah. They sat down and they knew what will work. So that was the huge inflection point, this change.
That's number one positive.
For me, the second big inflection point was the big migration of the best Cubans that were the first that came out of Cuba in the 1960s. And these were amazing, entrepreneurial, bright people. And I say this out of personal experience. In my high school class, half of my friends came out of this migration because I went to my school in 1970s, and they were born either in Puerto Rico from parents that came out in the 60s, or they came very, very small to Puerto Rico. And I saw all the characteristics of this group that came to Puerto Rico. They put their kids in the best private schools, even if they didn't have the money to go out to restaurants or to have a beautiful car. They put their kids in the best schools, and they were entrepreneurial. They help each other in their businesses, and they moved this island. They moved. Also, in that inflection point, our local entrepreneurs began to create manufacturing operations as a transfer of knowledge from all those manufacturing operations that came in the 50s. So that inflection point have two characteristics: the Cuban migration and the Puerto Rican entrepreneurs that created manufacturing plants. My grandfather was part of that 1960s. If you see the manufacturing, the incorporation documents of a lot of companies in Puerto Rico, they were created in that decade of the 1960s. I ended up running a food manufacturing company that was named Marvel, a hamburger manufacturing company. It was incorporated by Alfonso Ballester, by Santiago Polanco Abreu. I saw all the incorporating documents in the 1960s. There were a lot of companies that happened on those years. So it's the second inflection point. The third was Section 936 that was enacted in the 1970s.
We'll be back with more of Alberto Bacó in just a moment. Don't go away. I'd like to share a very cool opportunity with you. Now, do keep in mind this isn't investment advice. You should always consult a professional before investing. I want to tell you about Mondax Group. Mondax provides alternative asset management and retirement solutions. Mondax takes a very patient and rigorous approach to investing, and their mission is to deliver predictable cash flows to their clients backed by strong, high-growth businesses that they invest in. Their private offering, the Axel Fund, is for reserved accredited investors only and pays out a whopping 16% dividend distributed monthly. The fund's underlying assets are independent trucking businesses contracted across the U.S. with a Fortune 50 company. So if you're interested in learning how you, as an accredited investor, can earn 16% potentially tax-free, give Jason Schur a call at 609-937-8064 more, he'd love to schedule a complimentary face-to-face lunch to show you all the details. For more info, you can visit mondaxgroup.com/Axel-Fund. Just a short interruption to let you know it's time to book your ticket for the San Juan Social Club Cruise. This annual cruise is a one-of-a-kind vacation specially curated for residents of Puerto Rico and people that are interested in Puerto Rico. It's for people looking to network, make friends, and learn about all the resources and opportunities Puerto Rico has to offer. I promise you, this week-long voyage is truly an unforgettable experience. Last year, we had 238 high-level founder entrepreneur cruisers. We have over 400 booked for the next one. The cruise includes world-class speakers, mastermind sessions, deal-making, off-boat adventures, themed parties, and more. Over 100 million in deals were done between our cruisers, friendships made, tens of thousands of dollars raised for impact projects on the island, and fun. For a limited time, it's just a few $100s to lock in your reservation that comes with a whopping onboard credit. To get all the details and join us for the next San Juan Social Club Cruise, go to sanjuansocialcruise.com. That's sanjuansocialcruise.com. And we're back with more of former Secretary of Economic Development, Alberto Bacó. Alberto, we were talking about the 3 positive inflection points and the 3 negative inflection points of Puerto Rico, and we're on inflection point 3.
Inflection point 3 was the enactment in the 1970s of Section 936. That is what I call our incentives that we can provide because of our reality that we are a territory of the United States and there's no taxation without representation. And due to that reality, we can basically establish how our local residents, corporations, or individuals are taxed. So that nobody can take away. Mm-hmm. But in the 1970s, the Congress enacted an additional benefit, which I call our tax exemptions with steroids, okay. which was that if these multinationals kept their profits within the territory in the banking sector for X number of years, invested in activity in the territory, then instead of paying the traditional 20% entrance tax to the U.S., they could pay 0.
Okay.
So that was very, very attractive to all the multinationals. And what happened? All of a sudden, we got in Puerto Rico all the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, drug manufacturing.
And we were manufacturing basically 9 out of 10 of the most sold pills in the world.
Yeah.
And we created an amazing industry. And as that, we created other industries in electronics. Intel was here. There were other manufacturing chips, and now they have everything in Taiwan. And it was such a benefit that it really moved the needle. Additionally, we created a banking and financial sector that was, I used to call it a small Wall Street, because we had so much funds to be invested locally that it was important to have top talent trained and working locally, since that money was sourced in Puerto Rico. So it it was unique what brought that Section 936. So that's why I say there's no reason to look into the U.S. for opportunities.
Right.
We all stayed here and thrive here. So that's the third, very positive.
So during that time, 140,000 jobs were created. In what period of time? Like a decade?
I would say the peak was 180,000.
Wow.
And we are around now like 80,000. So in a decade, we went from 180,000 to 80,000. The big boost came from 1976 to 1996. It was 20 years.
And the U.S. government, they couldn't have made the tax breaks go away, but it was that 20%
That
tax
20% entrance tax
that was in there.
that was in their control.
Wow. Wow. Could we have done anything to fight harder for that? Could we have, or was it just in the...
We could have fighted a lot harder, but then comes
You want your support
our
from the
political reality that the governor at that time was from the statehood movement. And the statehood movement, there are two lines of thought. There's the line of thought that we should destroy everything that has to do with the Commonwealth people, because if we destroy everything and we get Puerto Rico to be so dependent and so poor, then everybody will go begging for statehood. That's the theory of a group.
Wow.
There's a lot healthier theory within the statehooders,
Okay.
which is let's use the tools that we have, which is the Commonwealth, to make this a thriving place, and it will be a lot more attractive for the U.S. to get involved and committed to grant statehood. I think that is a lot more intelligent to go the way of making this a thriving place and have the powers in the U.S. to want to have us as a state than to go the way of these people that basically feel that they have a franchise on that party and control the not thinking people, tell them stupid things that will never happen. We all know that in the U.S. there's no ambience for statehood for Puerto Rico.
Right, right. So the idea is get ourselves to a place of such strength when then statehood would make more sense.
I will be a statehooder.
Sure.
The U.S. is the greatest nation of the world.
Right, right. Okay, so now let's move on to the three declining inflection points in Puerto Rico.
Those are very sad.
And we're going to start with one. We've got about 1 minute, and then we'll come back and cover the next two.
I will tell you one that I tell is composed of two, which is we had on our hands what Miami has right now. We were going to be the hub for American Airlines for Latin America.
Right.
And I was the friend of Peter Dolara. He used to come continually to Puerto Rico. I met Robert Crandall, Antonio Luis Ferré, the head of the Ferré family. He was in the board of director of American Airlines in the holding company. They were seriously committed to Puerto Rico. They had an MRO here, a maintenance facility. They have American Eagle flying to all the Caribbean from here. They have a flight attendants base here. But we blew it. The government didn't approve some additions to another departing gates and certain small things. And Miami put their act together.
And look what happened in Miami.
And that's what really triggered
Wow.
the Miami miracle.
Wow. Very interesting. We'll be back with more of Alberto Bacó in just a moment. Don't go away. I'd like to share a very cool opportunity with you. Now, do keep in mind this isn't investment advice. You should always consult a professional before investing. I want to tell you about Mondax Group. Mondax provides alternative asset management and retirement solutions. Mondax takes a very patient and rigorous approach to investing, and their mission is to deliver predictable cash flows to their clients backed by strong, high-growth businesses that they invest in. Their private offering, the Axel Fund, is for reserved accredited investors only and pays out a whopping 16% dividend distributed monthly. The fund's underlying assets are independent trucking businesses contracted across the U.S. with a Fortune 50 company. So if you're interested in learning how you, as an accredited investor, can earn 16% potentially tax-free, give Jason Schur a call at 609-937-8064. He'd love to schedule a complimentary face-to-face lunch to show you all the details. For more info, you can visit mondaxgroup.com/Axel-Fund. I want to take a quick minute to tell you about an organization that's very near and dear to my heart because I started it. The San Juan Social Club is at its core a community of extraordinary people getting together for food, fun, networking, and philanthropy. What started out a few years ago as a small gathering of friends has blossomed into thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, movers, shakers, and change makers here in Puerto Rico. We hold monthly free social, learning, and community service events. We run an annual networking cruise, which is truly an unforgettable experience. Plus, we just started securing member exclusives on things like discounts for professional services, restaurants, and service businesses on the island and beyond. If you spend any time at all in Puerto Rico, we'd love to see you at our next event. Visit sanjuansocialclub.org to get on the invite list. Again, that's sanjuansocialclub.org. Hope to see you at our next event. And we're back with more of Alberto Bacó. Alberto, we were talking about the inflection points of Puerto Rico, in your opinion, the top three and then the three negative inflection points. And one of those was American Airlines was going to make Puerto Rico their hub, and they made Miami their hub, and look what happened to Miami. It was huge. Also, it's interesting, we noted, Singapore came here and studied what we were doing and then went back and built Singapore, and then we didn't. So I want to try to get to that as well. But let's talk about the two more negative inflection points of what kind of hindered us here in Puerto Rico.
More or less happening at the same time was the negative the build-up of a negative propaganda against the Navy. And this is a story that nobody tells from this perspective, which is the economic development perspective.
Okay.
The Navy used to have a presence tied up to economic development. In Puerto Rico. They used to be our best lobbyists in Washington. Mm-hmm. And for the people that know, the resident commissioner have no power there. The lobby is a powerhouse of the Navy, is powerful in Washington.
Sure.
And they were all for Puerto Rico. They really had a presence. if you look at pictures of all the public activities, there were these guys in white uniforms that were part of the permanent government of Puerto Rico. They were there in the first. Those things passed like kind of without people giving importance. The Navy basically moved the east coast of Puerto Rico because that naval base, Roosevelt Roads, was a world-class powerhouse.
And it was a city.
It was a city that at some point it was going to carry all the fleet of England in World War II, when England was losing the war. And it was a very important base. And we just never gave it importance. And when I began my career as an attorney, I saw how they were acting as promoters of Puerto Rico, also bringing manufacturing plants to Puerto Rico to create activities for Vieques. So, yes, they did shooting practices, and they needed to change, and they needed to adapt, but they were totally mistreated and misunderstood and taken for very lightly. So those things together were a very negative inflection point.
How big was the naval? How big was the Navy here at the time? About what, 20, 30,000?
I don't remember the number, but it was huge. It was
big. Yeah. Okay. Third.
Then the second inflection point, because those two went together.
Okay.
The bomb, the nuclear, was in 1996, the elimination of Section 936 that I already spoke by President Clinton. My theory was it was a negotiation with Ireland.
Right.
After that, everything calmed down in Ireland. A lot of the expansions from the pharmaceuticals in Puerto Rico stopped happening in Puerto Rico and went to Ireland. And Puerto Rico began to, it was a 10-year transition period that we ended up losing 100,000 jobs, well-paid jobs. The banking sector in 2010, there were closed 4 banks, the remaining, and basically we kept only 3 big banks that right now for the new residents is a nightmare to do business with the local banks because they have no competition.
Yeah. So they have an antiquated business, online business system.
So it was terrible. They devastated the financial system, devastated the manufacturing business, and we got into a depression that no other state have ever seen in Puerto Rico from 2006, which marked the end of the transition period. Mm-hmm. And that was the root of the third negative inflection point, which was the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy and the total bankruptcy of people. People used to invest in Puerto Rico in local bank stocks and in municipal bonds and in real estate. These 3 things went to 40 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. This was terrible 10, 12 years. Terrible. We got used to the human tends to go used to things. But there are people that lost their minds, and
Yeah.
they lost all their savings of all their life, and there was no time to go back and make it back.
Right.
And so it was terrible. It was terrible what happened to Puerto Rico unnecessarily. So that's the third negative inflection point. An unfortunate happening, nature, I think, marked the beginning of a new era.
And so we're going to have to wrap up here because we're out of time. But Alberto, will you come back for part 3?
Let's do part
Okay,
3.
we're going to do part 3, and we're going to bring this up to a positive note. So we will have more of Alberto Bacó in our next episode. Join us. Until next time, this is Daven Michaels. Live your true life adventure. Bye for now.